Back in 1995, I worked at a Blockbuster. I liked the job for the most part. I was a movie buff, plus I made a lot of great friends there. It was a Saturday night, and it was almost around midnight. I was working with my friend Darren, and we were getting ready to close up. He was vacuuming, and I was putting the returns back where they needed to be. At one point, while I was doing this, somebody dropped off a VHS back into the box from outside. For those that don't remember, there used to be a drop box where customers didn't need to come inside to return the movies. They just put it through the hole on the outside. I didn't think much about it, but I went and grabbed the movie. The movie he returned was Halloween 2. I opened it up, and to my absolute shock, I saw something on the inside of the case. It was a piece of paper. It had written on it my name, address, and my phone number. I was a little spooked out, but thought maybe it was a friend of mine playing a prank on me or something. I had called a few of my friends from the store, but to my surprise, they were saying they had nothing to do with it. I looked up to see who the person was that rented the tape, but nothing in the system said that someone had checked this movie out with this number. I was really creeped out and told my manager the next day about it. To this day, nothing strange ever happened like that again. I worked at a Blockbuster up until 2001 and moved to a different state and got a well-paying job. I won't ever forget that experience that night back in 1995. When Blockbuster was going out of business, I took advantage of the going out of business sale that they had going on. Everything must go, and they were doing between 50 and 70% off. After work on a Friday night, I headed down there to see if I could find anything I liked. I walk in and immediately felt sad seeing the place like this. Everything was almost out of the store, and it was sad to see. I grew up going to Blockbuster. I even got my Nintendo 64 games from here back in the day, when it first came out. Anyways, I started looking around and I was finding a few things. All of a sudden I noticed one of the workers staring at me. I figured they were just watching me. I was the only one in the store at the time, but the way he did it made me feel uneasy. I tried to ignore it, but it was hard to. After looking back at him, he looked away really fast. I felt a little uneasy, but I decided to grab a few movies and some popcorn and headed to the front. The employee never greeted me or said hi to me. He just rang up my stuff and gave me the total, and that's it. I gave him the money, and he gave me a change back. No, have a nice day. No, nothing. I grabbed my items and left. I get in my car, and I got a text from my girlfriend, so I looked down at my phone and started texting her. About to start my car, I lift my head up, and to my shock, I see the Blockbuster employee guy who rang me out standing in front of my car. He had a motionless stare on his face. I threw the car in reverse, fast, and sped out of there. As I looked back to see the guy chasing my car a bit. Obviously, he didn't have a chance at catching me. I called the police and told them about the whole thing. They said they would check it out. I called the manager the next day to report the guy, but I was shocked to hear that employee that chased me wasn't even an employee at all. Apparently, he was an employee at another Blockbuster who lost his job a day before and pretended to be covering a shift there. The whole thing freaked me out. Eventually, they found the guy, and he was in trouble for what happened. I'll never forget this moment, as it was a sad way to end my run as a customer at Blockbuster. I know a lot of people that have nostalgia about Blockbuster, but I personally don't. Everything about Blockbuster scared me as a kid. The reason it did is because of the horror section, and seeing the Chucky doll always terrified me as a kid. Even the unique smell Blockbuster had gave me the creeps. Another reason I don't feel the whole Blockbuster vibe is because when I was 10, my dad took me to a Blockbuster because he wanted to rent a movie. I didn't want to go in, but he said I had to since he needed me to watch me. We go inside, but I tried to stay close towards the front. I was looking at the candy section. I noticed a guy outside in the parking lot. He had a woman with him, and they seemed to be getting into an argument. After about a minute or so, the man is screaming at the woman. He then swings the door open and grabs the woman and tosses her in the car. A few people in the parking lot noticed this and began to hold the man back, and one guy even punched him, knocking him to the floor. The police were called and took the guy to jail. What I heard years later from my dad was that the man was also carrying duct tape and rope in his trunk. It creeps me out thinking about it, but I'm just glad those guys were brave and stopped that man. Who knows what could have happened if they didn't stop him that day.